It's time for the Creative Real Estate Podcast, your source for out-of-the-box real estate investing strategies, brought to you by realbluespruce.com.
Welcome back to the Creative Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Adams, and this is episode 79. This is July 7th, and I've got a true story today about Riley. You're going to want to hear this story. It's a short story, actually, but it's a true story about Riley, who had a full-time job and got into multifamily anyway, and you're going to want to know exactly how that happened. But before we get started, let me just let you know that I was overwhelmed this morning when I found out that the Creative Real Estate Podcast was voted #1 podcast on iTunes. So, and the story there is right before I got out of bed, I took a poll and I said, everybody, who thinks it's the best, raise your hand, and it was unanimous. I raised my hand. Obviously, I wasn't going to vote against myself, but the Creative Real Estate Podcast is now voted #1 podcast on iTunes, and we're happy for that. So before I share Riley's story, I wanted to tell you a couple cool things that happened also on July 7th. So in 1456, Joan of Arc was acquitted, but that was 25 years after she was burned on the stake. In 1550, on a lighter note, chocolate was introduced, and this was back in Europe, so kind of cool. July 7th, little history for us, but we will go ahead and get started with Riley's story. This is a true story, and let's start it by just letting you know about that webinar that we did a couple days ago, okay? So that webinar was on July 5th is when we had that webinar. Today's the 7th, and what we shared on that webinar was the 4 ways you can get involved in multifamily right now. No more excuses. It doesn't matter if you have a job. It doesn't matter if you have a full-time job. It doesn't matter if your credit's great or low, if you have liquidity. Any excuse doesn't matter. We shared with you the exact 4 ways. Now, yes, you can go and hop onto that link. I'll put it in the show notes, and you can just watch the recording of that live webinar, since it's now over by the time this comes out. So feel free to do that. Riley, and this is his real name. I'm not even changing his name. It's a true story, and it's his real name. Riley actually utilized one of the 4 ways that we teach you on that webinar. And the way that Riley did was he actually brought us a deal. He brought a deal to Blue Spruce. Now, he didn't just bring one deal. I'll be completely honest with you. He brought 2 deals. One of them worked on paper, but it didn't work in real life, and the other one worked both on paper, and it ended out working in real life. And so this is something that Riley was able to do to get involved in a multifamily. He didn't have to go through all sorts of education. He was able to keep his full-time job. He didn't need to come out of pocket with even a penny to close on this 83 unit. So I want to stress, this is a true story, okay? So I'm not making any of this up. I'll bring Riley in as a guest on the podcast. He's got a great story anyway. He used to be a phenomenal virtual wholesaler before he started getting into multifamily and started bringing deals to Blue Spruce, and we're closing on so far half of the deals that he's brought to us. But before that, because he is so good at finding these deals and negotiating with people, and I know that there's a lot of folks listening to this podcast right now, and you could probably point to yourself and you could say, you know what, he's talking to me. He's talking about me specifically. I'm the one who has always been really great at finding deals. And if that's you, don't worry. That's all you need to know to get involved in multifamily, because with Riley, let me just give you some of the highlights, and then we'll hop off the call, okay? I'll give you a couple quick highlights. It took us between 60 and 70 days to close that deal. He brought it to us 2 months later. He was an owner in 83 units. One thing that he got access to was the acquisition fee of $135K. So Riley got his portion of that $135K that came into the general partnership to close a transaction. Other things that Riley was able to get when he bought that 83 unit was monthly cash flow, or actually technically it's quarterly cash flow, because that's the way the LP, the limited partnership that closed on the deal, is doing distributions, is once a quarter. But he got a small portion of that $130K, He gets a small, slice of that pie of the quarterly cash flows. Here's the thing. Riley brought a deal. My company brought the management, the key principal to sign on the loan, the net worth, the liquidity, the credit that needed to be there to sign on the loan. He was able to keep his full-time job, and my company raised all of the money to close that deal for Riley. He didn't even have to raise a penny to close that deal. So, what a great win-win for Riley, somebody who literally has a full-time job. I know I keep saying that, but it's actually it's an excuse that I hear all too often, okay? Far too often, all too much. We raised all the money for him. He kept his full-time job. He did his first syndication, none of his own money, none of his own credit, and now he owns 83 doors. It's awesome. And like I said, this is a true story. I will bring Riley in to the podcast. I want to share everything else with you that he's done. I want to share with you guys real fast, if you may or may not know that tomorrow, actually, Nitsan Mosery, episode number 80 is going to be coming out. Well, I guess it's not tomorrow. It's in 2 days. But from the day that this podcast comes out, 2 days after, Nitsan Mosery, famous, he's actually called the Traveling Investor. So he has a famous radio show that plays all around the country. Actually, he records it out in Florida, and this plays every Thursday. I think it's like at noon or something close to that on on every single Thursday. Nitsan, let me tell you how he spells his name. Nizan. But it's not Nissan, the car. It's Nitsan. You got to use the T. So he actually wanted me tomorrow. When this comes out, you're going to see that I spelled it Nizan. I'll tell you, he wants me to write it Nitzan because it drives him nuts that people don't say the T. Yeah, it's supposed to be there. Anyway, Nitsan is a phenomenal guy. He's been doing a lot of things. Well, we actually have him coming on July 21st. And I'm going to do my best to make that free. So far, it is free. I don't think we're going to have to charge for it. But this is an all-day event in Denver on Saturday, the 21st of July. And I want you to be there. I want to keep it free for you. So I'm 90% sure it will be free. The longer you wait, obviously, the harder it's going to be for me to make sure that it stays free. But go ahead and find a way to sign up to be in Denver on Saturday, July 21st, where we have actually Nitsan Mosery coming to share a lot of the ways that he's been able to do all sorts of transactions. And it'll blow your mind, the types of commercial real estate that Nitsan's done. It is honestly phenomenal. And then we have Karen Hall on the 24th, 3 days after. She's going to talk about self-directed investments. And I will be in Las Vegas, Nevada on August 2nd because I'm in a mastermind group, and probably the most famous other person in there is Rod Cleef. So Rod Cleef, me, and a few other apartment investors will be at a mastermind in Vegas on August 2nd. If you live in the Vegas area, please hit me up. Send me an email to adam@realbluespruce.com. I want to get together when I'm in Vegas. I'd love to meet a couple people when we're out there. On August 3rd, I will still be in Nevada, Las Vegas, but here in Denver, John Heyer, he is actually probably the most, I think it's safe to say he is the number one most famous self-directed IRA expert attorney in the entire world. John Heyer will be in Denver on August 3rd. That is limited seating at the Agonai restaurant off of Holly and Leetsdale. I highly suggest that you try to be involved in that. I'll go ahead and put that link in the show notes for you as well. And hey, I know I've been sharing this a lot lately, but I really would like to see you when I'm in Chi-Town with Rod Cleef at that 3-day boot camp. Guys, this is so affordable, it would be dumb of you not to go. It is so affordable. If you use my link, it's just rodcleef.com/Adam Adams. That'll give you a discount where you can get tickets as low as like $200 for 3 full days of boot camp teaching you all the ins and outs of being able to buy your first or next multifamily. I really hope that no matter where you are in the United States of America, that you find a way to get to that event with Rod Khleif. There is going to be a little bonus that I'm not allowed to tell you. If you're there, there's going to be a little secret thing that Rod will share with you that I'm excited about. I'm excited about that thing that I'm not allowed to tell you, but you will know it when you are there in Chi-Town with Rod and myself. All right. So with that said, I'm going to hop off, and I really appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for being loyal listeners. Keep those 5-star ratings coming. We really, really appreciate them. And until next time, my friends, think outside the box. Hey, guys, I wanted to share something with you. Rod Khleif's invited me and some other members of our multifamily mastermind group to join him in Chicago for a 3-day event for apartment investors who are looking to get that slight edge to skyrocket their success. I'm about to share a link with you. It's also in the show notes, because I truly want to see you join us in Chicago. It's rodkhleif.com/Adam Adams. The event is super affordable, but using that link will allow you to save an additional 20 to 30% off your ticket. I'd love to see you put yourself in the top 1% of successful multifamily syndicators by taking action right now, while the prices are still low. Go to rodkhleif.com/Adam Adams.